I signed with Mark Clayman and everything else that happens, happens. Mr. Super Agent gave me a phone call. He was not happy with me. He wanted to make sure I understood. You just made the biggest mistake you ever made in your life. This thing is going nowhere. It will never happen. Good luck, goodbye, Clay. Well, I ran into that guy one night at this event. The film had just been released. The box office numbers were going through the roof. Will had just been nominated for an Academy Award. The film had just become the first American film ever shown in China. And right there at that moment, I just turned to him and said, "How you like me now?" How you like me now? And I share that with you because that's why I fought so hard for that scene on the basketball court. Those words, don't ever let somebody else tell you what you can't do. Those are not just words that you say to a child. Sometimes you gotta say those words to the man or the woman looking at you in the mirror. You gotta do it. You got to do that. And let me tell you something. At this event here, I happen to be getting honored at this particular event. Man, I did not know when people say we like to honor you, man, that costs you money. People call me today and say, "Chris, we like to honor you." And I say, "No, man, I'm good." No, thank you. And speaking of honors, right here, Will has just received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Santa Barbara Film Festival. That's me, Will, Mark, and some guy named Tom. You know, the funniest thing for me about hanging out with all these people in Hollywood is you are amazed at how small everybody is. How you gonna save the world when you're like this tall? Come on, man. And you see how he's standing there on his he's standing on his tiptoes. Anybody remember that little boy holding his father's shoes? Well, that's him now. That's him today. 6 feet 8 inches tall, 375 pounds. That all started at a food bank. We knew where the good ones were. That young lady standing there. I do not know a politically correct way to say this. I do not know the human resources approved way to say this. So I'm going to have to say this in English. After all that madness I went through with my son's mother, we got together one night to talk about reconciliation. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. 9 months later, you know what happened. I've been a single parent now for 34 years. 34 years, and I don't say that to say that's the right way. I'm not saying it's the best way, but sometimes when life happens, you do what you gotta do. That's all I'm saying. Ooh, man, the Oscars. People have asked me many, many times, what's it like? I mean, is it as big as it seems? Let me tell you something. That thing, as big as it seems on television, is even bigger in real life. And you only get 2 tickets to this thing. Holly and I talk about it, and she says, you gotta take Jay. I take my daughter. And we all know, as parents, at some point in time, you are no longer cool. As parents, your children don't want to hang out with you, man. Let me tell you something. If you ever want to be Player of the Year, take your daughter to the Oscars. I didn't know anything about this, but this woman, Vera Wang, she's a big name, no? Vera Wang dresses my daughter. This friendly little jewelry company, Japar, lent my daughter $500,000 worth of diamonds on her signature, which is really my signature, to wear to this event. And I walked behind her all night saying, you better not drop nothing. So where's my earring? And that guy who told me to forget it, it'll never happen, hey, I was there, he wasn't. From Hollywood to Hampton, my proudest day as a parent, had to give the commencement address at Hampton University, Hampton, Virginia. I've given a few of those the last few years, and they're all special events. But you know what made this one extra special? Is on this day, my daughter graduated from Hampton. And when she walked across that stage, she became the first person in the history of my family since we got to America off of slave ships 400 years ago to walk across the stage and graduate from college. So that was a big deal. That was a big deal. Man, let me tell you something. Now my son went to college for 6 years. I don't need to say another word about that, do I? Some of y'all know about that 6-year program. And let me tell you something, as long as I was reading my notes, I was fine, but every time I looked up, that's what I saw. That's what 400 years looks like right there. And someone very, very close to me says, take this picture on your presentation. You can't use that. Well, you know what? They said you're going to seem like you're showing off. I'm not showing off. But I will say this. I know for a fact, I'm not the only guy in this room who saw something as a little boy and said to himself, one day. I don't know what the equivalent is for women. Maybe it's a home, maybe it's jewelry, maybe it's diamonds, I don't know. But for little boys, it was something that made a lot of noise. It was a sports car, a motorboat, or a speedboat. And I saw this thing, and I said to myself, one day. It took me 44 years. 44 years, but you know what? Let me tell you something. It took me 44 years, but that's okay. You know why? Because I still got the key in my pocket. It took me 44 years, but the point I'm trying to make is, the ultimate lesson is, when you get your toys, you got no time. Meaning time is the ultimate asset. You can make money, you can lose money, you cannot make time. You can't make time. That last breath you just took, you can never give it back. That last beat of your heart, you'll never feel it again. You can ask anybody in this room, how much longer do you have to work before you're eligible for retirement? They know. How much gas is in your car? They know. How much time you got left in your life? Nobody in it knows. That's the big question. I've been asking myself that question for a little while now. That's Holly. She was the love of my life for 20 years. I now know the greatest honor that I ever got in my life was I got the honor of being her primary caregiver for the last 4 years of her life, and we fought brain cancer. Can't talk too much about it. She's been gone now for 6 years, 11 months, and 21 days. And I keep saying to myself, man, you gotta stop counting. She wouldn't want that. But you know what I learned from other folks who lost someone that loved them unconditionally? The reason you never stop counting is because you know that might not ever happen again. It's hard to accept that some of the most beautiful things in your life are going to happen one time. Holly and I were blessed with the access, the reach, and the resources. I brought to the table the best minds in science and medicine. I brought all the king's horses and all the king's men. And let me tell you something. Through this whole process, she kept asking me the same question over and over. The question was, now that we can see how truly short life can be, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? That's the big question. That's not a rhetorical question at that point. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? I will submit to you, the greatest honor that you're ever going to have in your life is the day that someone that you love knows, I'll be there. Don't know what those doctors are going to say. I'll be there. Don't know what that MRI is going to show. I'll be there. Don't know what that X-ray is going to say. I'll be there. And let me tell you something. That's going to be the greatest honor that you'll ever receive in your life, and it won't feel like it until you get way down the road. The one thing I've learned about myself, or had reconfirmed, is I've always had this thing about loyalty. And if you've been there for me, I'm going to be there for you. Man, I would have been a good dog. Man, hey, and what has this guy got to do with all of this? The champ. One of the most important meetings I ever had in my life was the day I met Muhammad Ali. All of a sudden, I was 10 years old, all over again. I met him at the airport, and I'm so excited, I'm all over him. He finally calms me down, and I had a chance to ask him the most important question, which was, champ, you ever been scared? He says, yeah. I'm scared now. I got a disease, there's no cure, but I'm still fighting. What would the champ do? Keep fighting. Keep fighting, whatever it is. Man, and speaking of champions, we lost one a couple of years ago. I gotta tell you, man, the very first time I went to Africa, I had the blessing to meet Mr. Nelson Mandela for the very first time. He found out that this was my first trip to Africa. He shook my hand and he said, welcome home, son. And I gotta tell you something. The first time in your life you hear the words, welcome home, son, come from Nelson Mandela, that's the beginning of your life changing. That is the absolute beginning of your life changing right there. One more funny thing about that particular photo, there's a young man who had been trying to get into my office to see me for 4 years. I finally said, fine, son, come on in, sit down, let's talk. The young guy comes to my office, takes one look at that picture and says, oh man, that's Morgan Freeman.
Get out.
Hey, that was a short meeting. And what does this guy have to do with all of this? Nothing. Would anybody see that big light bulb on top of my head? Looked like somebody just got a bright idea, huh? That's how it feels right now. It feels like my mind is on fire. I've never been more excited about where I am and what I'm doing in my life. I've taken my newest position. It's the last job I will ever have in my life. I'm now officially the CEO of happiness, and I love my job. I absolutely love my job. Man, a job one as CEO of happiness, I got to do two things. Number one, I got to explain to everybody in the world, why do you spell happiness with a Y? That Y is there to make us mindful that it is you and your responsibility, you and your opportunity to create the life that you want for you and your family. That's why we spell happiness with a Y. Job 1A, I'm trying to share with people all around the world the greatest gift I ever got in my life, which was permission to dream. My mom said to me, son, you can do or be anything. That was permission to dream. I gave that same permission to my children, but more importantly, I'm now in a position to give it to a whole new generation. And I started a few years ago with my granddaughter, and she gets it. And I will never forget getting this phone call from my granddaughter. She's so excited because at school this day, they had done this special project. They made a big desk out of cardboard boxes. And they sat behind the desk taking pictures saying, I'm the President of the United States. That's cool. That's what you do in the 4th grade. Man, one day I get this phone call from my granddaughter, and she says to me, Papa, you know the president, right? Yeah. Well, I want you to call him up. For what? I want you to call him and tell him I'm coming to the White House, and I want to take a picture sitting at the big desk. Let me make sure I got this right. You want me to call the President of the United States and tell him my 7-year-old granddaughter wants to come take a picture sitting at his desk. But tell him I'm 7½. Well, all right. That's going to seal the deal there, right? Man, the other cool thing about getting to your 60s is you're old enough to know better, but you're still young enough to say, well, why not? So I make the call. And I get a call back, come on down. And that, folks, is the backbone and the cornerstone and the bedrock of the universal dream. It all starts right there with permission to dream. And right here, man, this is where I knew I had created a monster. This last picture right here, the President of the United States is explaining to this little girl, well, if you do real good in school and you do everything your papa says, in about 30 years, this office can be yours. And right there, she's saying to him, no, it's 28 and a half because I'm 7½ years old. God bless. Thank you guys for having me. It's been an absolute